Hey guys, it's Bales. I'm at DraftKings and wanted to do a lineup review from week one for a good lineup that I had, and then one of a really poor lineup, at least in terms of how they finished. So yesterday I did a review of my team in the Blitz, which got third, and that was the $300 buy-in. I think there were maybe 3,400 people in that one. This one is the 27 and went through Monday. It was a Thursday to Monday contest. There were 15,000 roughly people in this one. So I had D'Angelo last night on Monday night and didn't even really think I had too much of a shot, so I wasn't even really paying attention. And on Sunday, I was in Nashville and was sort of forced to sweat the $300, which ended on Sunday, because the guys were watching it and watching my lineup and stuff. And I watch the games, but typically don't look at my lineup. So last night on Monday, I was back at home, and so I could just really not pay attention. So I really didn't know that I was even doing well until someone tweeted, and it was Fieldman77, who I believe is a new player, but he tweeted at me that he bought my book and got it on Wednesday, and he won for 50K. So I guess maybe that wasn't the best idea for me to write the book, but I'm just kidding. So yeah, I want to go through this lineup, and then I'll go through the bad lineup that I had in a qualifier for the DK championship. So like my lineup in the 300, I had Breeze to Snead. I didn't have Cooks for whatever reason in this one. I was mixing it up. I had a lot of combinations of that, so a lot of Breeze, Cooks, and Snead together. I believe I even had some Breeze, Snead, Ingram together, a few different combinations, and probably wasn't a great decision, but it did allow me to get AJ Green into the lineup, and he obviously had a good game. I think you can make an argument that anytime one of the top 5 or 6 receivers, those top guys, Julio and Odell and AJ and Antonio, obviously, are going to be below 5%, regardless of the situation, then they're probably a good tournament play. I didn't think he would be at 3.4. I think we had him at 5 to 8, and on FantasyLabs, and we also had the same for Jarvis Landry, 5 to 8%, and he was higher than I expected, and probably wouldn't roster Jarvis Landry at 11%. I thought that was going to be lower because of the matchup with Sherman, who I thought actually might not be on him that much. So he still had his, I guess, normal line of 7 catches and 59 yards. At one point, I think he had 2 for -3 or something. But yeah, I was able to get the decent receivers, or a couple high-priced receivers, and Breeze, and then still put a good running back into the flex, because I had went cheap at running back with Ware and Michael, and Ware obviously was pretty vital for having a high finish, I think, given his cost and how he did in week one. And I had D'Angelo in the flex, so this was something that I talked about on Sunday night in that league, where you definitely want to place the latest possible player in the flex, and there's some merit maybe into using guys in those primetime games, because you have more options and late swap opportunities on DK. So I think I was in maybe, I don't know, like 30th or 25th, I forget, but before the Monday night games, and I had D'Angelo. I might have been lower than that, and I saw there were some people ahead of me and was doing the same thing, reverse engineering their lineup. So I believe Fieldman had D'Angelo, he did, and he was someone that I knew pretty much had him by looking at the salary he had left of the other guys and adding it up, and I think he was the only one ahead of me, because Smizzle, who got second, he had Antonio, and I figured that out. So there were a few different guys ahead of me with players left, different guys, but so I knew I was pretty much dead to win, by starting D'Angelo, but I could get second. But still thought it was unlikely. D'Angelo had that big game. But again, just having that guy in the flex, I think, is important so that if I wanted to swap to a receiver, I could. Whereas if I had D'Angelo here and I'd placed either Michael or Ware in the flex, then I would only be able to swap down to a running back. So it just gives you more options. And then finally, I think I made a mistake in this lineup. I'm not really sure what happened. Actually, I am sure what happened. I was trying to get lineups in because there was overlay. So I actually didn't play nearly as much as I wanted to, because I was going to be very aggressive in week one once I saw, the leagues on FanDuel a little bit, but DraftKings especially overlaid like crazy. I heard they lost considerable amount of money in overlay, which might be good or bad for them. I'm not sure, but so I was trying to get in more lineups and just like putting in repeat lineups and things like that. So this one I think filled. It was close to filling. It was like 14 or 1500 shy, but there were other leagues with overlay, so I didn't get to place as much time into each lineup as I wanted. And it's not a huge mistake, but I typically wouldn't play a defense with a pass catcher if the Eagles are doing well, stopping the Browns, and they're up as they were. Eagles probably not throwing as much late in the game. Tight end production is actually pretty correlated with how well the team is doing. But if you don't have a close game and they're not throwing it late, then obviously not good for a pass catcher. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I think that was just I'm trying to get lineups out, trying to create new lineups as quickly as possible late. Really didn't plan as much as I would have liked to. I didn't plan for that type of overlay, and really was bad preparation on my part, but I do think it shows how much incredible skill there is in managing all these lineups, even if they're very, very similar. And there's late news, and obviously we had it wasn't super late, but there was news on TJ Yeldon. We knew he was going to get a big workload, so you can see he shot up like kind of late to second in my model at only 4,100. Luckily didn't have too much of him, but it did cause me to change some things. So good finish here. And I will take a look at a bad lineup I had, which was in the 1K queue. I believe I placed one lineup in it and didn't do well at all. I think second to last. So this was 76 teams. I got 75th. Almost got last. And this was a lineup that, like, going into week one, just to show you the variance, I would have rated this lineup ahead of that one that I just showed you that scored 200 whatever points. This one scored 93, not even close to half as many, and had a lot of guys who I actually liked a lot, and just like the collection of all those guys that actually were the worst. So I had a lot of the top scorers, and then I had a lot of the guys who were big duds. So I was on Rodgers, Cobb a lot, and that had a lot to do with Jordy. I explained in a previous video, but Cobb was one of my top exposures, and at 3.9% owned, and a game that I thought could be definitely very high scoring. Jordy potentially banged up. I thought that was, he was really one of my favorite plays. So had Cobb and then double stack with Cook. I thought that made some sense, especially because Nelson and Cook might not make as much if you think that Jordy's a little bit more reliant on touchdowns. It still can, I think. I think people are too scared to not roster teammates together. You saw that with Antonio and even like Roethlisberger, Antonio, D'Angelo together. You can definitely even use a running back in there as well. So I went with that. Obviously didn't work. Keenan Allen I thought was good play, under 10%. One of my favorite also, and he got hurt. So that actually did work out, but it obviously didn't. He didn't perform as well as I needed to, given that he got hurt in the second quarter. Michael Latavius, I liked a lot in that game. thought he was going to be able to. I figured he was going to get more snaps than people thought, and didn't expect the Raiders to win, but did think it was going to be close, potential shootout, and he can still offer value if they are losing. Sammy Watkins, I liked quite a bit. Didn't think I wouldn't have played him in hindsight. I got some information that he was somewhat healthy. Chef Schefter in the on Sunday morning said that it came out that his foot was maybe not that great and he was playing hurt. And I thought that news might push his ownership down a bit. And if he's doing better than maybe people think, because sometimes no one really knows except for the player how they're feeling, and I think there's a lot of speculation with those things a lot. So that was my call there that I think was wrong in hindsight given the ownership. And I think in the 300 he was like 21 or 22% owned. A lot of Tyrod to him, and I used Tyrod as well. Then we had Rashard Matthews. I believe all of these receivers played at 1 o'clock, so there was no late swap opportunity there. Potential mistake with that, although I think it's difficult and probably wrong to force in a guy late just because he's playing late. But yeah, that was just a pricing and potential volume play relative to the price. He didn't get the volume, wasn't even on the field that much, so in hindsight probably not the greatest play. And also with receivers, I care a lot more about talent with them than any other position. I want them to be really good players, and he's probably not. And so that was an uncharacteristic play for me that I would take back if I could. And then Cardinals D didn't perform well, obviously lost the game. I like that one a lot. The line shot up to 9.5 late. I liked them before that. I thought that all the injuries to the Patriots, I really thought that the Gronk one was going to hurt them quite a bit, and thought that the Cardinals would be in a really good spot against Garoppolo. But that one didn't work out. So yeah, you can see sort of the variance there in lineups taking the same approach. But overall, it was definitely successful week 1, and hope you check out Fantasy Labs for week 2.